Bow, 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 from my head down to my toe. I love my little bow. Bow, 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 everywhere I go. You know I love my bow.
Hi, welcome to Joyful DIYs. I'm Joyful Day. Each week, I make a new DIY based on your votes in the comment section, so keep them coming. It's so much fun to craft, and it's even more fun to DIY together. So that's why I love to message with you in the comment section, and also on my Instagram account at Joyful Day DIYs. There's a link for that in the description box below. If you want to collaborate with me, go ahead and use that link and message me on my Instagram account. I really didn't want to make a super long video, and that's why I decided to cut this up into 3 different segments to make it a little easier for everyone to follow along and nicer with easy, simple steps. This week I'm doing a 3-part series on this beautiful unicorn dress. So it is about a twin sheet. No, it is exactly a twin sheet. And it has all these really pretty rainbows and unicorns all over them. And the other thing is that they are faced only one direction. I typically like to get an all over pattern, that way something doesn't have to go one direction. But this is going to work just fine for this week, and I'm really excited to use it. So for this dress, it's going to be a circle skirt and then a regular top like this, except for I am going to be adding sleeves to this dress because I want to be able to just wear it on its own without having to have like an underskirt or an undershirt or something. And I'm also going to be making a tulle underskirt. So I have some various pink tulle. This is really pastel light pink, and this is a little bit brighter of a pink, but I think it's going to work just fine. And what I'm going to do is this is a bit more rigid, and I don't even know how much it is because I got it at Value Village and it really was $2.99, but this is a whole bunch for just $2.99, so I'm really excited about it. And I'm going to be making this an underskirt so that I can have an underskirt for this unicorn dress that I want to make for the next upcoming dress that I'm making. And I also want to wear it with stuff like I'm wearing right now. I would really love to have a little bit of extra floof under a lot more of my pink dresses. So having this little extra floof is going to make it so much more fun and so much more cosplay and so much more Lolita, and just add that extra fun floof. And on top of that floof, I'm going to be adding this lighter floof as just a softer touch, basically. So I'm just gonna add this over the top of that, and it'll give it this like soft floof effect on the skirt. I'll show you what I mean. So like I was saying, this is going to be a 3-part video. Part 1 will be making this floofy underskirt. Part 2 will be making the simple dress. And part 3 will be all the accessories that I'm going to make with this. I'm so excited for this dress. Materials for this week are scissors, clips, safety pins, about 1/4 of an inch of elastic, about 3 yards of that, the material that I mentioned, a seam ripper just in case you make a mistake, a sewing machine, and some thread. So there's a couple ways to do this. One, you can take this already folded in half fabric and sew a straight stitch about a 1/2 inch down, and sew along this edge here all the way down, and then weave elastic through that little loop here and shimmy it through, and that will make a skirt. And then you'll have to just attach these 2 sides. However, there's another way. You can take the edge that you already have folded and fold this in half. Not half, but you'll want to make yourself a square, and then make this into a circle skirt, and then you can have however many layers of a circle skirt that this will allow, and that will give you a lot of floof. So I'm thinking of doing that. I'm going to see how much fabric I have, and I will check back with you as soon as I figure out if I want to do the square circle skirt or the one line ruffle skirt. So also what I was going to tell you is that when doing this, you'll kind of know whether this is too long to be a skirt for you or not. So if you need to do any cutting, I would suggest doing it now before it's on the skirt and makes, you know, like a kind of a wavy thing going. So I would just do it now while it's still straight flat out, and then just cut off whatever inches that you don't need on the bottom of your skirt. For me, I would definitely need to do that. I have decided to go ahead and cut off about 5 inches off the bottom and use the simple elastic sleeve piece here, because this is so much that it's just gonna keep bunching and give me this extra huge floof. So that's really the effect that I want. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I don't know if this is gonna work. What I'm gonna do is try to cut off about 5 inches right here, and then see if I can't rip it the rest of the way down, and I'll let you know if that works, because if it does, then it'll be a lot faster than cutting and trying to measure exactly 5 inches the whole way down. It goes from big and now it's getting smaller. So that means it was a mistake to do that. So don't rip the fabric, because you're not going to get it the same size all the way down. So then I cut off all of this extra floof and just save this, and you can add this on later as ruffle. So now that you have a giant sea of pink floof, we're going to go ahead and turn this part into a skirt by folding it in half again, wherever the pesky ends are. So you find an end and fold it directly in half like this, and sew yourself about a 1/2 inch down for the elastic sleeve, down the whole floof. So this will be a while. I think this is probably, I think it's like 25 yards of floof. It's what it feels like to me, but it might be like 15, and you'll probably want to get at least 15 if you want a real big floof like this. And this is maybe 5 yards of light pink floof that's in this lighter weight tulle. So I'm going to use that on the top of this to give it a real fun flow. So I'm going to start right here and sew about a 1/2 inch down. So this is a little tip that I picked up along the way. Before you start sewing on any of your larger projects, I would wind up about 6 bobbins with the thread that you need, because it really makes a huge difference when you're working on something to not have to stop, take your thread out of your needle, wind up the bobbins, and then rethread your machine while you're in the middle of a project. So I just wind up about 5 or 6 of these every time right before I do a project. For this skirt, you're only going to need probably about 2 bobbins. So if you want to just wind up 2 for this project, then that's a great idea. You might want to do 3 just in case. And don't forget to backstitch. Now that we have this piece folded over and sewn, we're going to do the same thing to this one. This is the light pink very thin mesh material, and this one's not really folded over properly. It's all twisted up. So what I've decided to do is the easy way, and what I'm doing is I'm clipping these clips to the ends and not the folded section, because what I'm going to do is trim off about 5 inches off of this one as well. Going to hold these up like this and then trim off the 5. That way I can make it even. Either way though, even if it is a little lopsided, it won't matter, because this skirt doesn't really show the unevenness very well. So for the most part it'll be fine. If you do see some unevenness, then just trim that unevenness down once you have the skirt all the way completely done. So now if you have somebody else in your household that can like hold this section up for you, or even lay it down on the table, now that you have these clips here, it'll kind of hold it flat for you while you're cutting, so that you won't make lopsided wax in your material like I just did. Now that we've sewn the loop, we're going to go ahead and weave the elastic through by safety pinning it to one side and putting a safety pin on the other side and kind of weaving it through like this, that little sleeve. And we're going to do this to the light pink, and we're also going to do this to that thicker material of pink. So we'll actually have 2 skirts, and they'll be layered on top of each other, and that will give us the fun floof that we want. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, now that I've put the elastics through the sleeve, I have these ends that I need to attach together, and there's 2 ends on each side. So what I've decided to do is grab the top 2 ends and sew them together. And then when I get down to the middle point, I'm just going to grab the other 2 ends and continue sewing all the way down the edge of this. That way both of these seams will be inside facing each other, and we'll have nice sides on both sides. Whatever way that you put the skirt on, the seams will be on the inside. I just put the elastic through the second skirt. This one is the harder pink skirt, and I just wanted to zigzag stitch a bunch of times over the top of this so that this will be held tight. And I'm doing that, I did that same thing with the other skirt, so don't forget to zigzag stitch this really good so that it'll not come apart once you're trying to put it on. And then what I'm doing is the same thing that I did with my other skirt. Take one piece of the top of the skirt, fold these 2 ends together, and then I will straight stitch this end to this end to the very center of the skirt, and then do the same thing with the other side. So it'll be one long seam, and then they'll both be folded into each other, so there won't be a seam on the top or the bottom of this skirt, so that you could wear it upside down or vice versa, and you won't notice that there's a seam anywhere. I want to give you a more clear image of what I'm trying to do here. So what I did was I took these 2 edges and lined them up, and then face them towards each other. And then I'm going to sew a straight stitch down this line all the way to the skirt part, to the elastic anyway, and then grab these 2 sections on the bottom that we had folded over and do a straight stitch down those sides too. So I'll start going down this side and then go back up this side once I'm sewing. I hope you guys got that. I'll show you what I mean. So here's how I'm sewing. Don't forget to back stitch. You don't want this thing to come unraveled. And then here's the elastic piece. So now I'm pinching the top two pieces together so that they will be lined up evenly once I get to it. So you sew all the way to that seam there and then roll over, keep going right over the top of that and sew up the other side. And again, don't forget to backstitch. And this does put those two seams on the inside. That way, once you put your skirt on either direction, you won't see it at all. See? You won't notice it. And this skirt is now done. So it is all kinds of floofy. It's kind of going different directions here, but straighten her out, and you can see this skirt is super floofy. Just kind of pinch them out to where the elastic isn't quite as noticeable. And I could have put more floof on this, but it's plenty floofy for me. And now what I wanted to do is put this lighter floof over the top of this floof, and now we've got even more floof. In a world full of expenses, my DIYs are always free, so come on back next week. Thank you so much for watching, and have a joyful day.
Bow, 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 from my head down to my toe. I love my little bow. Bow, 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 everywhere I go, you know I love my bow.